Lesson 38, we did half of the lesson in a different video. This part of the lesson, we're going to talk about squares and square roots. So we find the area of a square by multiplying the length of a side of a square by itself. For example, the area of a square with sides 5 centimeters and 5 centimeters, it's going to equal 25 square centimeters, or 25 centimeters squared. From doing this comes the expression squaring of a number. So 5 squared is 5 times 5, which is 25. To indicate squaring, we use the exponent 2. Okay? So 5 squared equals 25. The exponent is elevated and written to the right of a number, like right there. And an exponent shows how many times the other number, or the base, is to be used as a factor. So in this case, 5 is to be used as a factor twice. So we have 5 times 5. If we had 5 to the 4th, where the exponent was 4, it would be 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. We'd write that 5 4 times. So here we have a bunch of squares. Okay, these are all perfect squares from 1 to 100. So we have 1 times 1, or 1 squared, is going to equal 1. 2 squared is 4. 3 squared, 9. 4 squared, 16. 5 squared, 25. 6 squared, 36. 7 squared, 49. 8 squared, 64. 9 squared, 81. 10 squared is 100. So the others, there are none. Okay, these are all of the perfect squares from 1 to 100. So when we have our numbers 1 through 10, we're squaring them, they're going to be between 1 and 100. Okay? So, what is 12 squared? Well, I could write it like that. Okay, but what that means is 12 times 12. So 12 multiplied by itself. Okay? We should know that fact is 144. Okay, so there's my answer for A. B, this is simplified. I have 3 squared plus 4 squared. Okay, well 3 squared is 3 times 3 is 9, plus 4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16. So my answer is going to be 25. So when it's square, we're just multiplying it by itself. In this case, for letter B, we need to do those squares before we add, okay? Because it's multiplication. And order of operations says that we do parentheses, exponents, then multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So what is the area of a square with sides 5 meters long? So if we have a square, one of the sides is 5 meters. Remember, a square, all the sides are the same, so every side's going to be 5 meters. And a square is a rectangle. We're going to multiply one side by the other side, length times width. Or when we're talking about a square, we can just take whatever they give us, multiply it by itself, or square it. So 5 squared, which is 5 times 5, is equal to 25. Now, I need a label, because we're talking about meters, but this was 5 meters times 5 meters, so I have meters times meters, which is meters squared. So when we multiply something by itself, we're squaring it. Okay. So remember, area, we have meters squared. Remember, I prefer that you write it with the exponent there rather than like that. If we know the area of a square, we can find the length of each side. We do this by determining the length whose square equals the area. For example, a square whose area is 49 centimeters squared has side lengths of 7 centimeters because 7 centimeters times 7 centimeters equals 49 centimeters squared. Determining the length of a side of a square from the area of the square is a model for finding the principal square root of a number. Finding the square root of a number is the inverse of squaring a number. So 6 squared is 6 times 6, it's 36. Okay? our square root of 36 is going to be 6. So it's that what number times itself is going to equal that number. Okay. We say this is the square root of 100. Okay. Has this, it's kind of like a division sign, but has this little extra piece to it. Okay. Means what positive number when multiplied by itself has a product of 100. Okay. So we know that 10 times 10 equals 100. So the square root of 100 is going to be 10. A number is a perfect square if it has a square root that is a whole number. So starting with 1, the first 4 perfect squares are 1, 4, 9, 16. So I have one square here. So it's 1 times 1. Okay, it's going to be 1. Notice how the 2 here doesn't make a square. But when I do 2 times 2, find the area, it becomes a square, so it's a perfect square. 2 times 3 doesn't work. But 3 times 3 ends up making a square. I know it's not a very nice square, but it's a square. So we have 3 times 3, there's 9 there. I can do the same with 4 times 4. Becomes 16. Okay? It's not a square until I get a number times itself. Okay? So what's the square root of 64? What times itself is going to equal 64? Well, by now we should know that 8 times 8 is 64. 8 and 8 fell on the floor and they got up there 64. So my answer for this is simply going to be 8. If you don't know those off the top of your head, you're just going to kind of have to start guessing and doing the multiplication, figuring out what, and get close to it. Okay? Most of the ones that you're going to have for now should be mental math. You should be able to get pretty quick. So, big practice set today, but go ahead and do all these. Go through them, make sure you know how to do them. Come to class with any questions you may have.